A lot of people are not in a situation where they have a partner that is this level of supportive. They need to be on board and they need to understand that when you're an entrepreneur, you are also married to your business, right? It's much more than just the work ethic.
So if you could build that relationship in a genuine way, that is the way that you are going to accelerate as quickly as humanly possible.
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Traveled Show. This is a show about people that were successful in a previous career and left that career to go down a different path. I'm your co-host, Richard Coyne.
And I'm your co-host, Bill Zahller.
On today's show, we have Christine and Danny Bellish. We're so glad you're with us. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. We're so happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us, guys.
Absolutely. Well, Christine and Danny, if we can start with just help our audience understand a little bit more about your background. What initial career were you in, and then what have you transitioned to?
So I can jump in there quickly. And, what we were telling you guys earlier is we think it was best to have us both because there is a bit of duality. I am still in a W-2 job. Christine left her W-2 job 4 years ago to pursue our business full time, but we both come from the New York City advertising world. So advertising, branding, marketing, investor relations, all of that is included in what we used to do.
Excellent. And then how long have you been, Christine, in your case, how long have you been full-time in the real estate side of it?
So funny enough, we actually got married in 2018 and we also decided to make this big life change, and we started our business together in 2018 as well. So it's been 4 years since I've been full-time in real estate. Initially, we started off BRRRing small duplexes, multifamily properties locally in New Jersey, but we quickly leveled up into much larger property acquisitions through syndication.
Excellent. And then what are you looking for today? What's your ideal target investment?
Oh, that's a great and loaded question considering the volatility in the market and everything that's going on and changing so rapidly. But we have two open investments right now. One is a net lease fund that we are pursuing triple and double net lease assets. So, for your viewers who don't know what that is, those are, the retail stores that you drive by every day, whether it's a Dollar General or a CVS, a Walgreens, an AutoZone, a Taco Bell. These are all freestanding buildings and properties where those businesses are actually your tenants. So that's one asset class that we have leaned into as of late because of the stable cash flow, considering, again, the economic volatility. And again, on the other side, we're looking at development and redevelopment. Considering the housing shortage, we're about 3.5 million homes short of supply. It's a great time to be building if you have the right partners to do so.
Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've heard some numbers that even say it's even higher than 3.5 million. I've heard closer, even up as high as 5 million. But the point is, you're right, that we have a problem in this country. And quite honestly, that's why the government has tax laws written the way they are to incent housing, building of housing, et cetera, and creating jobs and things like that. And also back to the triple net, double net, triple net. A lot of people don't realize, when you're buying that building, you've got a locked in tenant for 3, 5, 10, 20 years in that property. So it is a nice stable cash flow. So, and those contracts also typically have, is it every year or is it every couple of year accelerator in terms of the rents?
Yeah, it depends on the tenant, of course, and also the way that the landlord has negotiated the lease. But we are only targeting tenants that have corporate or very large franchise guarantees. And all of the properties that we're looking at purchasing do have those built-in rent increases, like you mentioned. Some of them are annual. As far as the dollar stores go, we have 3 under contract right now, and the rent escalations usually happen every 5 years with those.
And it's funny, just to jump in on that, we, to your point about most people don't realize, we get, curious investors and prospective investors constantly who are like, you're going to be running a Dollar General? And we're like, no, you will not find us behind the desk running a Dollar General. But yeah, it's a common misconception, and we're thrilled to be in that space.
Nice. So where are your, Bill, where are your properties? Are they kind of New Jersey or are they other places?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So we started GPing for the first time last year. We invested passively before that. But the majority of our investments are in Ohio, in the Cleveland area, on the multifamily side of things, and also development. One of our partners is actually based in downtown Cleveland, so that's how we get access to the best deals there. And he's got his finger on the pulse in the market there. But as far as the net lease acquisitions go, we definitely are leaning more towards, I would say, red space, just because like we are looking for stability. God forbid another COVID situation happens. We don't want the businesses to be affected or shut down. But the properties that we're under contract on right now, 2 of them just happen to be in West Virginia. It's not like we are specifically targeting that market. And the other one is in Arkansas. So it really just all comes down to the numbers. We were able to, lock them up at a pretty awesome cap rate, great lending terms. And that's more what we're focused on is, does the underwriting hit our return projections for those?
Mm-hmm. Okay, nice. Sounds exciting. Very cool.
Yeah.
So as you both think, excuse me, back to your advertising background, Danny, you're still there, but at the same point in time, who's got a funny story that kind of you can share something about, this is crazy, why am I doing this?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much like a crazy story. And I have to say, we put out a post recently, our corporate careers, although yes, New York City rat race for sure, high pace, high stress, they were amazing, incredible industries that we got to do really cool things that most people don't get to do. So, we were constantly either being entertained or entertaining clients, going to the best sporting events, meeting celebrities constantly, going to very cool events and meeting very interesting and really smart people. But I guess the smartest and most brilliant person that I met in advertising was Christine. So it's funny, we actually did work together. At one point, I was her client. Oh. So she was working for a tech startup that provided really great insights to publishers in order for them to approach brands in the way that those brands wanted to be approached. We knew exactly what the demographics that they were looking for, the type of contextual environments, a whole slew of information. So Christine was our rep, and I just remember there was a room of 30 sales reps there, all on my team, and she just walks in, just bold and confident and beautiful, and I was like, whoa. And then funny enough, she was so good at that our company actually poached her and brought her on in a number of roles and capacities at our company. So that was definitely a memorable moment in my career.
Nice. So as the client, did you ask for, Christine, I'm going to need to have an after the meeting with you. There's a little feedback I got to give you.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I actually, I had a really great relationship with my clients, and I think a lot of what we learned in our corporate careers translates really well to what we're doing right now. And that's actually why we decided that we wanted to get involved in syndication, because we felt like the skills that we had developed in corporate translate better to syndication. Whereas we're not DIY people. We tried our BRRRRs hands-on. That's just not in our wheelhouse. Communicating, helping to educate people, helping to hold their hand and walk them through the process, investor relations, that sort of white glove service, that is what we are good at. So dealing with kind of high volume deals, right? So we both worked, in a B2B capacity in advertising and with some of the biggest brands in the world. Like my W-2 right now is with Disney. I worked with National Geographic. We've done partnerships with every major auto, pharma company, tech company that you could ever imagine, and doing deals with, some of those high priority clients, multi-million-dollar deals. Yeah.
Just now when we first dipped our toe into real estate and syndication, it was a little daunting thinking about, okay, now we're doing multi-million-dollar deals for ourselves. This is a little bit different. You don't have the support and the resources of your company. But once we sort of changed our mindset to be like, we do know how to do this. This is something that is in our wheelhouse. That really helped us level up and going from some of those duplexes, hands-on, to these more corporate, I guess, formal types of dealings.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. We kind of on the transition, what was there a kind of deciding factor? You said there's a lot of your background. It sounded like you both had successful careers in the marketing side of it, and a lot of things carry over to the syndication side, just through the interaction with the clients in this case, but the investors in the syndication world. Was there a certain deciding factor? You just wanted a multiple stream of income, or what was the the point that made you, I need to start a second or a different career?
Yeah. So I was actually working remotely before we transitioned into our syndication career, and my entire team was let go. So, and I was one of the top performers on my team, and I was let go, and that really just made us reevaluate everything. It's like, it doesn't matter how great your performance is. Like, you could still be on the chopping block tomorrow.
You're expendable.
Yeah, you're expendable. Yeah. One email, one phone call can totally change your life. So, you know, I literally started going on interviews the next day, and he and I just, you know, kind of had conversations privately amongst ourselves about what direction we wanted to go in. And I had specifically taken this job for money. Like it was all about the pay. It was all about the compensation. It wasn't because it was something that I loved or I was passionate about or whatever. Like, I was good at it, but I took it because of the amount of money that I was making. And that job I was miserable at. Like, before I was even let go, like, I honestly think that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I don't know that I would have ever had, you know, the courage to leave if it wasn't put in front of me. So in that circumstance, I had received like a pretty decent severance package. So me being, you know, the conservative person that I am, I felt like this was the most comfortable time that we could kind of, you know, switch gears. And I think the other thing too is, as we were growing in the corporate career and in the corporate ladder, and we were trying to continue to not just, you know, build wealth for ourselves, but also build a life that we genuinely were enjoying and having fun at, we just didn't see how that would be possible if we continued to climb the corporate ladder. Like, we had no free time, you know, we were stressed out constantly, and we just didn't see an end in sight. So we just wanted to take more control of our future, and we knew that building passive income was really the way to do that.
I think one exercise that we employed was, you know, to take a look at the people around you and the people that are above you in your corporate structure. Are they people that you want to be in a number of years? Because that's what you do have to look forward to. And while they are absolutely people that we admire and respect, and some of them are still my mentors today, they were traveling all the time. They were working nonstop, constantly participating in what they felt like they had to. And I think what we wanted to create was more of the time freedom for us to spend more time with each other, with the people that we know, like, and love. And I have to say, even in these last couple of years of being remote, working from home, I only really kept in touch with like one or two people from my job outside of the, you know, Zoom calls that I was supposed to be on. So it kind of told me, like, are these people your real friends? You know? So it was, you know, it was kind of eye-opening. And again, not that you don't ever respect and admire those people and enjoy being connected to them, but you have to think about what's truly important to you in your life.
Well said. Yeah. I mean, again, so many people, we've talked about this from time to time, the idea and the concept that, you know, when you have a W-2 job, you have one stream of income and you are at the whim of the corporate beast. And that might bite you in a second without any notice. And companies don't care. You know, they have no loyalty to employees anymore. At one point, that was different years and years ago. And, you know, but at the same point in time, you know, you guys thought about that and you said, okay, let's start developing something to create another stream of income. And you were well positioned when, you know, you were given a chance to make a new choice and you were in position to leverage that. So good for you. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that, because we talk to a lot of now aspiring syndicators, right? And people who want to get to this position. And the first thing that they want to do is quit their job, right? Yeah. So I think, as you guys now probably very well know and have interviewed a number of people, you don't necessarily want to encourage them just to quit their job and pursue their passion, right? You do have to be a little bit more logical and analytical. Your job can help fund your future dreams. It can give you stability when it feels like the ground is just trembling beneath you. And I think we were lucky to have each other in that circumstance. And for people who are individual entrepreneurs, I would encourage you to spend a little bit more time in that stable environment while you're spending your extracurricular hours working on your side business.
And I hate to use this word because I feel like there's usually a negative, like, connotation to it, but I tell people exploit your job as much as possible while you can.
Right.
So don't just save your money to invest it, start to build up those passive, income streams so that when you leave, you still have some income coming in.
Use your benefits.
Yeah, use your benefits while you can.
Mm-hmm.
Because when that goes away, it goes away forever.
Yeah, and it's scary how much paying your own healthcare is. It really is. Whether you have insurance or not, it's daunting to recognize that. So, but again, yeah, that's a good point. To look, you have a job, you've got benefits, and as long as that job isn't sucking your soul where you're working 80, 100 hours a week, you got time to work on something else. So do it while you create that side hustle that gives you a chance and launch pad to build something. And once it starts to get some air underneath the wings, then you're in a position, right?
Well, I think for us and for many other people, desperation is a stinky cologne. When you leave that job and you are desperate for whatever that next thing is, it's a lot more difficult to attain in the light air that you need and positivity that you need to obtain.
Yeah. So speaking of, again, you mentioned as you guys were kind of moving in the real estate direction that you started doing some BRRRRs and some, did you say flips or really BRRRRs?
No, just BRRRRs, but yeah.
BRRRRs. Okay. All right. So just as you kind of were moving beyond that and just in that time frame, just to, tell me about some obstacles that you had to overcome.
Oh yeah. So the first project that we ever worked on was a 100-year-old house that was a duplex that we needed to completely gut and basically rebuild. Okay.
Wow.
And looking back on it, that was a silly choice. Like we should have taken on, a cosmetic renovation or something like that as our first project, but we grabbed the bull by the horns and we went for it. So that I would say was like our first obstacle, our first challenge. But as it relates to that project, I think our biggest issue was really the contractor. And I'm sure you guys hear this all the time also, but because we were new, we made some excuses for him. And we saw red flags early on that we should have cut ties sooner. Like he wasn't really very responsive. He would go missing in action for a couple of days. Even before he got started on the project, he wasn't really very responsive. But we kind of just made an excuse and said, we've heard this about a lot of contractors, maybe he's not the best communicator, but as long as he's, good at his craft, whatever, we should give him a chance. We should not have done that. we ended up doubling our, it took us twice as long as it should have taken us. It took us 9 months in total. We went $50,000 over on our budget. He did not care about the timeline. He did not care about the budget.
We also found out he was sleeping in the house.
Yeah.
It got weird.
Yeah, it was definitely weird.
Might have been why he wasn't in a hurry, you say.
Yeah.
That free housing.
Exactly.
I was like, if you're sleeping there, how are you still not getting any work done? It doesn't make any sense.
Imagine if he had to commute, how long it'd take.
Oh,
right?
Man. I know. So we should have cut ties with him sooner. We did, we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that project ourselves. We got involved, in some of the projects ourselves because we went so far over budget. And that's really what propelled us to not want to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
just wasn't scalable at that point. It took so much time and so much effort and so many resources. And it also told us we need to be partnering with somebody, right?
Yeah.
If we're going to be undertaking either a project of this magnitude or leveling up, it's imperative that we partner with people who have done this before.
Yeah, so that's, I would say, would have helped us avoid some of those mistakes would have been if we didn't try to do it by ourselves, if we partnered with somebody on that project, even if that meant, giving up half or more than that of the profits on the deal. If we could have spent that time learning from somebody who had more experience, that's absolutely, I would go back and do that again. But that's really what propelled us to get involved in syndication. So it was a good learning lesson.
Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Well, I mean, you spoke to some of the setbacks on the initial one and some of the learning. What was on the other side of that? What was one of your first victories? You can think when you, in the real estate side, when you go, it clicked and you said, yes, I made the right decision. This is going to work. We can do this.
So that's an interesting question because I would say our biggest setback and challenges on this project actually on the other side of it, it did end up working out. Like, it is a good investment. It is cash flowing significantly. We were able to pull out the majority of our initial investment when we did the cash out refi. So on paper, it's a great deal. But again, it just wasn't really that scalable. And
it also showed us that our analytics were good, but our execution was not. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we figure out? So that's part of it, right? When you're going through these trials and tribulations, figuring out what your strengths and weaknesses are so that you can find balance in those strengths and weaknesses moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, understand your strengths and figure out how to get somebody else to do the things you're not ideal at, the best at. Yeah. So, all right. So besides people thinking that you now are a counter clerk at Dollar General, you have a humorous story that you can share from your syndication world, what you're doing now?
Yeah. So funny enough, we leave this nightmare project, right? And we know that that's not the way to scale, at least not in New Jersey, right? So we started seeking property elsewhere because, we wanted to find properties that weren't as expensive, maybe not as high taxes, maybe more landlord friendly. So we ended up going to a meetup in Manhattan that was for purchasing multifamily out of state. And we go to this meetup, and we are talking to this guy before the meetup. Like Christine said, we come from investor relations. We like making friends. This is part of what we do. We like these networking events. So we're talking to this very mild-mannered guy, like very casually dressed guy, thick Texas accent. And we just totally hit it off for like 30 minutes before the event. So they tell everybody to take your seats. We go to take our seats. And this guy starts to make his way toward the stage. And we were like, is this the guy that we're here to see? And it turned out that he was the keynote speaker of the event, and he was there to teach everyone about real estate syndication. And at that point, we had never heard of real estate syndication before. Mm-hmm. So when we heard this way that these experts who have been doing this for decades purchase these large commercial projects like 300 unit apartment complexes, they raise money from passive investors, and you can be an equity partner in these deals for doing absolutely nothing. And then they started to talk about the returns, the potential projected returns, and they were better than what we were getting for our nightmare project. Mm-hmm. I was like, mind totally blown.
Nice.
So that was kind of our foray into syndication, but it kind of gets a little bit more interesting. So from there, we both come from New York, New Jersey, right? We don't take things at face value. So when they were telling us, just give me 50 grand and I'll take that and I'll turn it into 100 grand in a few years.
We were like, really?
I was like, I don't know about that. That seems a little suspect. So we ended up doing about 9 months of total due diligence with the keynote speaker from this event. We looked at his strategies, his markets. We spoke to his attorney. We spoke to some of his investors. We studied syndication in general and how relevant this was or how prevalent it is. And we ended up building enough of a rapport with them and asking enough questions. We were probably the most annoying passive investors ever,
Definitely.
But it was worth it. Mm-hmm. And we ended up investing passively in 2 of their deals. Yep. After we started to see the fruits of investing in those deals, we looked at each other and we were like, holy cow, this is
what
it.
we need to do.
This is how
Nice.
we're going to scale.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So then we kind of asked ourselves, how do we transition from being LPs to being GPs? Like, we want to be doing what these guys are doing. And, a lot of people are out there asking for mentors and without offering anything in return. And I think the thing that you hear over and over is about adding value. And like, that's the best way to really get involved in things. So we kind of thought about what's in our wheelhouse. What are we good at? How can we add value to them in their business? And so, in investing with them passively, we had the experience that, their investors had. So we saw some room for improvement as it related to investor relations. They didn't have somebody that was a dedicated investor relations person at that time. So we actually helped come up with a job description. We helped like market for that position and actually helped hire that person for them. We also advised them for free. We consulted on their business for about a year, and we helped come up with new marketing and advertising strategy for them, you know, to continue to build their brands and get more people on board like us. So,
Nice.
you know, we also showed them, you know, that we're hard workers, that we're diligent, that they can trust us, you know, and we continue to build that friendship and rapport. And basically after a year of doing that, investing with them passively, consulting on their business for free, you know, I was on a Zoom with him, and I was just like, hey, like, we've done all this work for you. Like, you're friends now. Like, we've had a great time together. Like, we want to do what you're doing. What do you think? How do we become part of the GP? Would you consider that? And he was like, yep, definitely. We're about to buy 291 units in Cleveland. Let's go. So we asked the question, we got the answer. And then I guess this goes back a little bit to one of our first victories. So one of our first victories in syndication was, you know, we had a personal goal of trying to raise $1 million for our first raise after never ever raising a dollar, a cent for any sort of passive investment before, and we crushed it. We raised 1.3. So that was for our first deal, and that was a huge win and a huge accomplishment. So we're pretty proud of that. Yeah.
I say congratulations. I mean, it really is. People, I think everybody has in their mind how easy it's going to be. You get excited about it. You've got a great deal. You've done it. And then if, you know, especially in the transition, when people they recognize you as your other job, right? And you're something new, they recognize you as the advertising or, you know, the doctor, whatever your other career was. And that first one always seems to take more time and a little bit more difficult than most people think. So that's outstanding. You guys blew away your own goal on the first deal.
Yeah, I think you just brought up a good point also of something that we tried to do. We tried to create a little bit of a runway for ourselves, right? We come from the branding world. We know how important brand is. So we created an entire brand and brand strategy and started educating people totally for free, you know, via social media, via email marketing, text message marketing, in-person events and one-on-one events about real estate, even before all of this syndication stuff, right? So,
Nice.
You know, every book that we had read, every podcast that we had watched, we like to be, you know, a liaison for that community and for that education and that material. So people saw that, and we were happy to give out that social currency or that educational currency to our friends and family even before we got to it, so that when we did make that ask, because we knew that it was going to come at some point, that they were already prepped and knew that we were educated in that space.
That's great. Yep. Smart way to do it for sure. Well, speaking of that, where you started out, and where are you today in your journey, and what do you see in the future, your goals on that?
So we, to date now, we have 692 units as GPs. 1,100 or so units as LPs, because we continue to invest as an LP so that we can see, you know, what other good operators are doing and apply it to our own business. We are fund managers now. We started our net lease fund. We have this redevelopment project that we just recently launched. And I think it's kind of sky's the limit, you know, in some ways. You know, we want to be really cautious and careful and methodical about everything that we do. The other part of our brain is ambitious, aggressive growth mode. So we are still navigating that. And I think our story of, you know, even just what has happened and transpired over the last couple of years has showed us, have a strategy, but don't hold on to it too tightly. You know, be flexible, be malleable to what the opportunities are.
I love that you just said that, because I was literally thinking the entire time, like, for us, I remember that we had a strategy session. I think it was, I can't remember whether it was last year or not, but we had a strategy session, and we were talking about, you know, how many multifamily units we wanted to we wanted to be
I haven't
involved
thought about
with.
This in a long time.
Yeah, and I think it was last year, and we said something like we wanted to, you know, acquire 60 units, and that was before we realized syndication. And so obviously, you know, to Danny's point about being flexible and pivoting when necessary, when we learned about syndication, we pivoted and, you know, and we leaned into it, and we educated ourselves, and we made sure that, you know, that this was the path that we wanted to go down. But I think even in the past year, we have pivoted again, right? Like, it's interesting because we were involved in the value add multifamily space, and that doesn't mean that we are abandoning that space. It's just that the returns that we're seeing on those deals right now are not where they were a year or two ago. And so we are pivoting, based on the returns that are out there, and also based on the asks that we're getting from our investors who are looking for something that was more stable. So that's why we pivoted into the net lease space. And then again, we pivoted again into the redevelopment space. So I think for us, it's about, listening to our constituents, hearing from our investors, like what are they looking for? What do they need? And doing our best to provide opportunities that best suit their needs, but also just being realistic and taking a look at the marketplace and understanding, that this is a different point in time than it was a year ago. And so we all kind of have to pivot in order to still meet our goals.
And a year from now is going to be different than then. A lot of, especially growing real estate investors, they say, I want 1,000 units. I want 10,000 units. And they hold on to this unit count. And it's so much less about the unit count. It's more about the opportunity in the asset class.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah. That's
Very
great.
good.
Yeah. I mean, that's, absolutely. You have to read the market, like you said, and because there are changes. I mean, no plan's going to be perfectly set, 10 years down the road, it's going to be a totally different market. And especially like you talked about, even just like the unit count, it's one thing, 10 years ago, if somebody said they wanted, 1,000 units and the B asset was trading for, 50,000 a unit. And now it's, 250 in, Raleigh or somewhere. So it's a totally different dynamic on that too. It's 5X what the price point was, when they made that initial goal. So like you said, the deal itself and the returns are whatever needs to look at on the individual micro level. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Christine and Danny, as you look at where you are now and what you do, and perhaps through your business, perhaps personally, is there anything you do to help others that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, I think this whole syndication space is about helping other people. Obviously, don't get us wrong, we are here because we want to build our own wealth and create our own passive income, and we are passionate about that. But we are fortunate to be in a position where we are helping other people by educating them about this as an opportunity, which we are super excited about because, again, we didn't know about it until just a couple of years ago. So to be able to share that with other people is amazing, and because we're still pretty new to the syndication space, a lot of the people who are our first investors are our family and friends, right? And so they get to join us on this journey. And when we get to, send distributions to our family and friends, and like we get text messages and phone calls of excitement from our parents and our cousins, that's huge. That's huge. I think to be helping to increase financial literacy in general, with our community and with our network has been a really, really rewarding experience thus far, and we can't wait to do more of that.
So our brand slogan is earn passively, live actively. And that's really what we stand for. And that's what we stand for in our own lives. That's what we want. We live an active lifestyle. We love to travel. We love to go out. We love to go to restaurants and see our friends and family, go to concerts. These are all things that we want to do more of. And we see real estate and these investments as a vehicle to be able to do more of the things that we want in life. And that's what we want to provide to others too. And just genuinely, I think what kind of sets us apart is we are so passionate about our investors. They are the lifeblood of every one of our deals. And they mean so much to us, not just now, but the future growth of our business. So, that I think is one way that we are just constantly trying to give back to that community.
And I think Danny touched on this earlier, but even before we got involved in syndication, we have always shared a lot of free knowledge and education through our social channels and through email, et cetera. And it's funny because we had family and friends that would question us sometimes and be like, you guys are giving away all this information for free.
You guys probably get that too.
You guys, in running the podcast. So I think in continuing to educate people for free through our social channels, through sharing our story with others, on the podcast, we go to meetups, you never know who you're going to meet.
We also have several mentees, we got a lot of help, in getting to where we are and where we want to go. And we are people sometimes are very surprised by how much time that we'll give, or that I won't set a 15-minute, Calendly call. I don't do that. If you need to talk and you have questions, let's sit down and talk about it and make the time to do so.
Yeah, we've been on, Zooms with some of our investors for like 2-3 hours, which
Wow.
I would say is not the most common, but when you're teaching somebody about syndication for the first time, and some of these people you've never met in person before, right? So we're doing the know, like, and trust all in one fell swoop, and that sometimes takes a longer conversation.
Yeah, I mean, we take that approach as well. I mean, again, Bill and I run 2 monthly meetings. We do the podcast, and our approach. We're part of the 101 at our local RIA. We believe that same approach. A lot of people were good to us, gracious with some of their time and questions and guidance along the way when we were getting started. So we kind of see it as a responsibility to help others and give back as well in that respect. There's some other things we do, and I'll talk about that later. But anyway, yeah, that's great. That's excellent.
Yeah. And as you're dealing with finances and these kinds of things, it's important to take the time and make sure that people are educated and that they are capable of investing in these things. So understanding their circumstance and their wants and their goals is of the utmost importance.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, as you've grown your business here, is there something you've recently implemented that's allowed you to scale?
I mean, I think, I was gonna say, yeah, definitely. The biggest learning again from our past experience into getting involved in syndication is really partnering with experts to scale. So that has changed the trajectory of our business immensely. We went from 4 units in New Jersey to what was it, like 500 and something units like in a year time, and now we've doubled that again in the next year. And it's really just because of the network that we've built, the partners that we are in contact with and that we work with. And I would encourage others to do the same. You don't have to go it alone. You don't have to learn everything the hard way. You should lean on other people and their expertise to help take you to the next level.
And I think one thing that we tried to do, and one thing that I tell my mentees is, when you find somebody that you really admire or that you want to work with or you think is an expert, or you listen to, the Road Less Traveled podcast, reach out to the hosts, say thank you for your participation. Try to don't ask them what they need help with. Just try to evaluate their business, try to help in any way that you can. Oftentimes, these syndicators, these operators, they don't have the time to figure out what you're good at in order for you to help them, right? I would take some time, think about the value that you can offer them, what your expertise is, or do you just have energy and hustle power that you could just go to work for them and tell them exactly how you can help, or just start doing it. So that's a lot of what we tell the people that we know that are trying to grow in this business.
Excellent.
I think it's excellent. Yeah. And like you said, so much of that is networking, right? Because, you don't know who you need to meet. I mean, it could be the one meeting you decided to go to after it all. And like the story you told about the gentleman happened to be the keynote speaker and was a great intro, and you guys just hit it off. And if for whatever reason decided not to go, because you guys are much more outgoing, but I mean, if people are a little shy or introverted, but that's how you make the right connections is putting yourself out there, and that's how you're going to grow the business. It's all about connect. We say a lot too. We're not in the real estate business. We're in the relationship business, because at the end of the day, it's all relationships. Yeah. We just happen to deal in real estate.
It's the same thing from the capital raising side, right? Like, we talk to some investors 20 times and maybe they don't invest. And then I talk to one person who is a reference from somebody else and they invest $500,000, right? Like it literally happens. So it's all about saying yes to everything, having consistency, and putting friendship and relationship first. Absolutely.
That's right.
Yep. That's great.
Christine and Danny, what advice would you share with somebody who's considering making a path change?
I would say so. Listen, we are fortunate, again, and Danny mentioned this before, that we are each other's partner. So it was a lot easier for us to make the decision because we still have a level of stability, as Danny is still in his W-2. If you don't, a lot of people are not in a situation where they have a partner that is this level of supportive. Maybe they're not literally your business partner also, but if you do have, a romantic partner in your life, that person needs to be on board. Even if they're not your business partner, they need to be on board, and they need to understand that when you're an entrepreneur, you are also married to your business, right? And the same thing goes for a business partner too. Like, if you have a business partner, it is much more than business, right? You need to make sure that that person is aligned with you on morals, ethics, values. It's much more than just, the work ethic that's related to it. So I would say either have either or both. Have a romantic partner that is supportive and on board, and or go out and find yourself, a business partner or a community of people that you can bounce ideas off of, grow with, learn from, and lean on when you need it, because it's not possible to literally do everything yourself. It's just not possible.
And I think for me, something that I've tried to do throughout my whole corporate career, and now clearly trying to do in the real estate business, is go to the most successful person that you know or that you can find and try to get them to pay you some attention, right? Like, really try to make friends with them and do it in a way that shows them that you support them, right? In every way. That, if they just get a promotion, send them a bottle of champagne, ask them to go out to dinner or to lunch, wish them a happy birthday, see how you can add value to them in their business. People who are mega successful are still people too. And they admire and want to pass on the education. They want to pass on the resources. So if you could be that recipient of that and build that relationship in a genuine way, that is the way that you are going to accelerate as quickly as humanly possible.
Excellent.
Great advice. Well, Christine and Danny, what's the best way for our listeners to learn more about what you guys have going on, your fund, and just reach out and connect?
Yeah, definitely. So you can visit us at our website, www.thebellishsteam.com. We are also very active on social media, as we mentioned, basically across every platform at The Bellish Team. Or you can email us. It's just Christine or Danny at thebellishsteam.com.
We'd love to hear from you. Like we said, we love to make friends. So reach out. We'd love to chat.
Great. We'll put the links in the show notes below, so to make it easy for listeners to do that. Again, we'd love to thank you for being on the Road Less Traveled show today. Really enjoyed the conversation, and we wish you continued success.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you both.
Absolutely. Thank you, Christine and Danny, for being on. We'd also like to thank our listeners. Please continue to give us 5-star ratings so we can bring you more great content like Christine and Danny Bellish today on our show. We'd also like to remind you of 2 important things that Park Capital Partners is working on. We have the Park Capital Partners 506C Value Add Fund, which is open today for accredited investors. And secondly, we have the Park Capital Partners Foundation, which is a 501(c) nonprofit that we created. And the way that works, just real quickly, is first, Park Capital Partners funds the operations of that foundation, so that all the money donated goes to do its best work, which is to help others. Second, we donate corporately, we donate personally. Third, and then finally, when investors invest with us, we make a donation to honor that investor to a pre-selected list of 15 different charities, so the investors can not only earn returns but also feel good about it by helping somebody else. So thanks again, folks, for joining. Christy and Danny, we really appreciate it. And remember, folks, the road less traveled may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. Thanks for joining.